Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So, as promised, today I'm going to be talking about authority in human design. And your authority is usually, not all the time, but usually your authority is the second or third thing that you learn about your human design. And that's because it's a very, very big part of how you make aligned decisions. So your strategy is basically how you, well, let's start. Your energy type is the general guidelines of who you are and how you, move in, the world as whatever energy type you are. Your strategy is how you kind of operate within your reality, how you interact with things in your reality as your energy type, and your authority is how you best make aligned decisions. And this is determined by, I'm sorry, I can't speak. This is determined by the defined energy centers that are in your chart. So this is all about, your authority is all about how you make decisions, how you make the best decisions for you. So before we dive into this video, I do want to let everyone know that I am doing free clarity calls for the next maybe week or so. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes. But I've opened up some spots in my calendar if you are looking to really dive deep into your human design and figure out how you can, use your design to feel more alignment in your life, if you're looking to gain more confidence, if you're looking to feel more at home in your body, if you're looking to dive more into your own divinity, if you're looking to manifest your deepest desires and expand into prosperity and abundance and claim the life that you know you deserve, I am offering free clarity calls to help you get clear on exactly what it is that you want and exactly how you can get there. That's what these calls are going to be. And I'm very excited about them, honestly, because this is literally a conglomeration of all the things that I love, all the things that I have been working towards becoming as a coach. My bad. And I get to incorporate human design and manifestation and tarot and all these. It's great. I'm very excited. So if you are interested if you are interested in claiming one of these free calls, go ahead and fill out the form that's in the description, and we can go ahead and get your call scheduled. So enough of my rambling. We're gonna get into the video. So there are 7 different authorities. So there is emotional, sacral, splenic, heart, G center, mental, and lunar. I'm not going to dive super deep into all of them in this one video because that would take quite a long time. So I'm going to break them up. Each of them is going to get their own video, but I am going to touch on them, individually a little bit. I do want to make a few things known. Number one, you can have more than one authority. So your primary authority, which will be, the first authority that shows up in your chart through a defined center, is your primary authority. And that is where you make your aligned decisions. If you have a secondary authority and a tertiary authority, or 4 or 5, those authorities basically are there to add more information to help your primary authority help you make the decision. But at the end of the day, your primary authority has the final say. Your primary authority gets to say yes or gets to say no in regards to any decision that you are currently trying to make. That distinction belongs to your primary authority. So it's really important that you know what your primary authority is and how it works, so that you know how you should really be focusing on making aligned decisions for yourself. That was that. What else did I want to say? Oh, no authority is better or worse than another authority. So it's not like, oh, I have a sacral authority, but I want a splenic authority, or I want a G center authority, or whatever. There is no better authority. There is no worse authority. No. The authority that you have is the one that you have. And each one of them has their own merits and their own downsides. But it's not something like, oh, I wish I had this. No. Your authority is perfect for you. And once you learn how to master it, once you really get into the flow of knowing exactly how to use your authority to make aligned decisions, it's going to come so much easier. So you don't have to worry about, it being better or worse. No, we're not doing that. Okay. Number 3, living your design really living and embodying your design comes down, well, not completely comes down to, but mostly about, I want to say 85 to 90% of living your design comes down to knowing three things: your energy type, your strategy, and your authority. So if you know those three things, you can pretty much live and embody your design pretty well. You don't need to know absolutely everything about human design in order to live in an aligned way with your human design. Knowing your energy type, knowing your strategy, and knowing your authority is honestly plenty. So I have videos on my channel now. Once I post this video, I'll have videos on my channel on each of these things. So don't feel like you have to go and learn everything before you start to implement this in your life. You don't. You really, really don't. So, and last thing, you want to jump into this slowly. When you discover what your authority is, what your primary authority, when your primary authority is, your tertiary, whatever, you want to start trusting your authority with small decisions and then slowly work your way up to bigger decisions. You don't want to jump headfirst unless you've been doing this work for a while. You don't want to jump headfirst in because it can be a little overwhelming, it can be a little scary, a little bit daunting, and you don't have to do that. You can take things slow. You can be gentle with yourself, and that's honestly what I recommend, is being very slow, being very patient, being very gentle with yourself. Okay? So we're going to start with the emotional authority, and you have an emotional authority if your solar plexus center is defined. And the interesting thing about having an emotional authority, it doesn't help you to decide what you should do. It helps you figure out when you should decide what you should do. So if you have an emotional authority, it's all about making sure that you are in an emotionally neutral place before you try and make a decision. Because if you are in an emotionally low place, you're going to say no to more things than you should. And if you're in an emotionally high place when you try and make a decision, you're going to overcommit yourself to things. You're going to say yes to more things than you should. So for you, if you have an emotional authority, you need to be aware of where you are emotionally. If you are emotionally low or emotionally high, it's not a good time for you to try and make a decision. If you're emotionally neutral, that's when you want to start figuring out, okay, do I want to do this or do I not want to do this? And with an emotional authority, your decision making, like should I do this, should I not do this, rolls over to your secondary authority. So let's say that you're a generator. Generators and manifesting generators automatically have a sacral authority. That is their like your sacral center is defined, you automatically have a sacral authority. So if you're an emotional generator, meaning you have an emotional authority, and your sacral center defined, which gives you a sacral authority, you would then use your sacral center to make the decision after you have checked in with yourself emotionally, which brings in your emotional authority. So I hope that makes sense. Emotional authority is more about when and not what. So make sure you're emotionally neutral before you make any big decision. Okay? Okay. Let's move into the sacral authority, which I kind of already touched on. If you have a sacral authority, you are meant to do things that excite you, and you are not meant to do things that don't excite you. It's very simple. It's very cut and dry. If something excites you on a gut level, like you feel it in your gut, go ahead and do it. If it doesn't excite you, if it's not something you want to do, don't do it. That is it. That that is literally all you have to do if you have a sacral authority. And if you have a sacral authority, meaning your sacral center is defined, you are either a generator or a manifesting generator. So you already know this because we talked about this in the MG video, the MG and generator video. So that is the sacral authority. Next is the splenic authority. So your splenic authority comes from your defined spleen center. If you have a defined spleen center, you have a very, very, very strong intuitive voice. So this means your splenic authority is just going to give you information. You are not always, you honestly may never be able to explain why you know the things that you know. You just know it. Like if you're in a situation and you get like a weird feeling, you're just like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. We need to leave. Like we need to go. And someone asks you like, why? Like what's wrong? You're not gonna be able to say, oh, well, because this and this. You're just gonna be like, I don't fucking know. I don't know. I don't feel right. We need to leave. That is your splenic authority. That is your intuition, your instincts from your defined spleen center telling you this is not a good place for us to be. We need to get the hell out of here now. That is your splenic authority. And it's going to, you really have to develop a strong connection with your intuition, because if not, you'll just write off these urges and be like, oh, I'm just being paranoid, or oh, it's just anxiety, blah, 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 when in actuality, it's your intuition telling you to get the fuck out of there, wherever there is. So be aware. You will not be able to explain this. Most of the time, you will not be able to explain this. And you just need to trust that your intuition, your instincts know what the hell they're talking about. Okay? Okay. Moving on to the heart or the ego authority. Having a heart authority, heart or an ego authority, can be a little bit sticky, because it's all about, is my heart in this? Is this something that I want? Is this something that I want to do? Is this something I want to experience? Is this person someone that I want in my life? And because it's so centered on you and what you want in like your heart, using your authority can make you seem a little bit selfish to other people. That's okay. That is fine. Because honestly, it is kind of all about you. Your heart, as your primary authority, knows what you are truly drawn to and what you are not. And your job as the awareness is to follow that. It doesn't fucking matter what someone else wants you to do. It doesn't matter what's going to make someone else happy. It doesn't matter, because your happiness is not their job. Okay? Your heart authority is all about making you feel happy, making you feel fulfilled, making you do the things that you want to do. If you really want to do something for another person, your heart authority will be like, yes, we want to do that. We want to help this person. But it's only going to do that if your heart is truly in it. And if it's not, you need to let it go. You need to let it go. You need to let it go. Okay? So for those of you who have a defined heart center or defined ego center, you probably get called selfish quite a bit if you are truly following your heart authority. Know that that's okay. Honestly, for you, it's pretty much a compliment. It means you're doing what you're meant to be doing, how you're supposed to be operating. So, moving on to the G Center authority. And the interesting thing about people who have a G Center authority is that they have a strong sense of who they are. The problem is that they have so much information that it's really, really difficult for them to access all of it. So if you have a G Center authority, it's all about, is this thing, is this experience going to make me feel like more of me? Is this me? Is this something that is going to bring me into more of a fulfillment of who I am? Is this going to help me be more of me? That's what the G Center authority is always striving towards. Is this going to make me feel like more of me? And the thing about, if you have a G Center authority, when you make decisions, you need to speak out loud. A lot of people, a lot of people can think about a decision that they need to make, and they can figure it all out in their head. Like, I'm going to do that. You know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. For you, if you have a G Center authority, you need to speak things out loud. If that means you have to talk to someone else about it, not for their opinion, not for them to tell you what to do, but just to use them as a sounding board, and just have someone there to just like, oh, yeah, we're not going to someone else to see what we should do. That's not what we're doing. We're using them as a sounding board. We're using them as a way to get the information out so that you can work through it. Because if you have a G Center authority, you need to work things out vocally, either doing a voice memo on your phone, or speaking to someone, or talking to yourself. I talk to myself all the time. It's fine. But if you have a G Center authority and you're trying to work out a big decision, you're like, should I do this? Should I do that? Stop trying to do it in your head. Stop trying to do it in your head, because it's not going to work for you. When you start to vocalize it and you start to speak about it, you'll start to automatically come into the realization of what is the right thing for you to do. And that's how you're meant to operate. Moving on, because the video is getting long, to the mental authority. Now, only about 2% of people in the world have a mental authority. And if you do have a mental authority, you are a projector. Only projectors can have a mental authority, and only 2% of the 20% of people in the world who are projectors have a mental authority. If you have a mental authority, you are meant to do what is logical for you. Which is so interesting, which I'll talk more about this in the mental authority video. But basically, how you make aligned decisions is doing whatever is most logical for you. Not most logical for someone else, not most logical for your family, not most logical for Susie down the street. What is most logical for you? Like when you get all the numbers together, when you pull all the stats, when you lay everything out in front of you, what is the most logical decision for you? That's what you're meant to do. And you, the 2% of people who have this authority, are the only people in the world who are meant to act out of logic. The rest of us are meant to act from our hearts, our intuitions, our guts. We're meant to make those decisions from a completely different place, not our minds. Which is so hilarious because most of what we're taught in society is to make logical decisions from our mind, and most of the people in the world are not meant to operate that way. Only 2%. Remember, 2% of 20%. So that's interesting, but again, we'll talk about that more in the mental authority video. So yes, mental authority. Mental authority, you're meant to do what's most logical for you, period. That's it. Okay? And lastly, we have lunar authority. If you have a lunar authority, it means you're a reflector. Only reflectors have lunar authorities, and that's because they are lunar beings, which means that the way you process information and the way that you see things are going to shift depending upon where the moon is and what gates are being activated in your chart. So if you have a lunar authority and you have a big decision to make, the way you process information and the way you make decisions can vary from Monday to Thursday. So if you have a lunar authority, it is very, very important for you to, number one, be mindful of where the moon is and what that is doing to your chart. And also, number two, notice when you make the best decisions for you. So if you notice that when the moon is in Sagittarius and it's activating a specific gate in your chart, you feel very frazzled, you feel very anxious, you feel like you can't focus, then it might not be the best idea for you to make big decisions when the moon is in Sagittarius. Now, if you find that when the moon is in Capricorn, you feel more calm, you feel more centered, you feel more focused, it may be better for you to wait to make any big decisions until the moon is in Capricorn and it's activating that gate in your chart. That's really all it means. So if you have a lunar authority, you want to pay attention to what the moon is doing, where the moon is, and how you feel when it is where it is. That's really confusing. The way I said that was weird. But yes, so you need to be aware of how the moon is influencing you and how it's influencing your chart. So lunar authorities are a little more involved than the others because it requires you to have some type of awareness of something else outside of you. But I promise, if you really take the time to dive into this and really become aware of how you feel when the moon is in different places in your chart and activating different gates in your chart, it's going to bring you so much peace and so much clarity when you are making decisions for yourself. So I hope that this video was helpful. Like I said, I will be doing a separate video on each of these authorities, but I wanted to kind of just do a general overview of what authority is and give you a little taste, so you can start to kind of embody this a little bit in your daily life. And I'll be back next week with another video. And if you are interested in claiming a clarity call with me, remember the link is in the description, and I will see you in my next video.